I'll give a brief introduction. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Jazakallah khairan for everybody being here. This is going to encapsulate an introduction to Aqidah given by our Shaykh Abu Zakariya. My highest recommendation is take notes. Even if it's on the phone, no problem. Take notes. First and foremost, having a foundational understanding of your Aqidah is of paramount importance to yourself, first and foremost. Secondly, whether you're married or you're looking to get married, it's good knowledge to pass on to your family. A lot of us do da'wah, for example, or we help new Muslims. Once again, very foundational knowledge to pass on to the new Muslims and to the non-Muslims as well. So, Jazakallah khairan, Shaykh Abu Zakariya.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. So this is briefly khutbah al-haja. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to begin his speeches with it, seeking the guidance and the help and the support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking to protect us from the evils of our own selves, our own doings, asking to show us the right way, knowing that only Allah can guide those who Allah lead them astray, nobody can guide. Those who Allah guide, nobody can lead them astray. And the best of the guidance, it comes from Allah. The best of way is the way of Rasulullah. So when we're talking about the Aqidah, the principles of creed and faith for Islam, it starts logically. It starts first. Is there a God or is there no God? That's what it starts. Is there a reason for faith or no faith? So mankind, were they created out of nothing or they created themselves? The answer is no to either one. It cannot be by chance. You have a lot of planets that have no inhabitants in it. They have no creatures, let alone humans in it. So it's not a natural process that somehow organically that creatures would happen and they would evolve into humans. It cannot happen. So there is a creator. And once this creator, أَوَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. So the creator, Allah, the one that we worship, is He creating us in vain for nothing? Or there is a purpose behind our creation? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah stated that purpose, you have created mankind and jinn kind to worship Me. These are the two kinds of creatures that are given the amana, the trust, the responsibility of making the choice. Or other creatures have no choices. Whether we're talking about solid matters, planets, mountains, or non-organic things, trees and water and so on, or whether they're organic creatures, plants, animals and so on. They don't have a choice. They have instincts, they have needs, they fulfill it, they live, they die, nothing behind it, no responsibility. We, mankind and jinn kind, we're given that trust. Allah trusted us when He showed us the way. You can see both ways, you choose as a human being. So, knowing that, then what Allah wants from us, how we worship Allah, what does it mean to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So there are dedicated acts of faith that you do it. You pray, you fast, you do your charity, you do pilgrimage, you make your dhikr, supplication, and so on. And the general way you conduct your life. So any action that is meant to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a worship. As long as you intend it this way, you follow the rules that Allah has set, what is right, what is wrong, becomes all your life ibadah, will be worship. Abd in Arabic is a slave, but being abd to Allah, there are two kinds. There's the general, they have no option. All fall under the decree of Allah. When something is decreed, a famine, a disaster, an earthquake, disease, whatever, everybody is abd to Allah, whatever befalls them will befall them. They cannot stop it. لا مانع لما أعطيت ولا معطي لما منعت. Nobody can give what Allah prevents, nobody can prevent what Allah gives. But then there is this specific ubudiyya, voluntarily worshipping, obedient to Allah out of love, out of respect, out of hope, out of fear. So this is the ibadah that we human beings are intended that we do it. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us prophets and messengers to show us how we do it. If we lead it to logically, yeah, maybe somebody logical will acknowledge, yes, there is a creator. We're supposed to be good people, do the right thing, not do the bad thing, help people, and so on. But they cannot comprehend the details of worship. They cannot comprehend the details of inheritance, laws, right and wrong, and hereafter, what will happen after death, about things unseen, or that doesn't come to the logic. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us prophets and messengers to show us that way. Was their message different? In general, no. إِنَّ الدِّينَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الْإِسْلَامِ. Religion for Allah is Islam, full submission. That's it. That was the message that Adam was ordered to carry, and he taught it to his children. This is the message of Nuh, of Ibrahim, of Ishaq, Yaqub, Asbab, Musa, Isa, all the prophets, until the final one, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The details of the worship, Allah chooses to prescribe it on certain people, certain times, certain places, in a specific way. So He imposed on the children of Israel to observe the Sabbath. إِنَّمَا جُعِلَ السَّبْتُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ. Allah ordered only for these people, for the children of Israel. He didn't order people before it, He didn't order it after it. When Isa came, it was lifted, the order to observe the Sabbath afterwards. Allah chooses to do that. Allah chooses where we direct our prayer. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first part of his da'wah, he was ordered to pray toward Jerusalem to confirm the link between Islam and the previous religions coming from Allah. And then the order came to him, he should now turn his face towards Mecca. Wherever you turn your face, there is Allah. So, which is right, which is wrong? The right one is obeying what Allah has ordered on that time. And the same thing when the prayer was ordered before, it was the prayer early in the day, end of the day. قَبْلَ طُلُوعِ الشَّمْسِ وَقَبْلَ غُرُوبِهَا. That was the prayer that people used to pray. And night prayer was a must for them. And then when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam descended to heaven, and he was given the order for the 5 prayers, he came back, he told them, now you have 5 prayers. Why 5, not 2, not 3, not 5? This is what Allah wants us to do. Why is 2 rak'ah here, 3 rak'ah there, 4 rak'ah here? Because this is obedience to Allah. So this is the logical sequence of events. So when it came to the revelation of Allah, people are ordered to follow the orders of Allah. So you have the revelations that Ibrahim had, Kutubu Ibrahim wa Musa. So Ibrahim has a revelation. Dawood, وَأَتَيْنَا دَاوُودَ زَبُورًا. He had the Zabur. Musa had Torah, and Isa had an Injil. But all of them, the same theme. There's no contradiction between all these books. However, these books, the people afterwards did not keep it in the right manner that was revealed in. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the final message, and He's preserving it. إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. Allah, when you reveal that dhikr, that remembrance of the Quran, it will be preserved. Preserved not only the way you write it, preserved the way you pronounce it, preserved in the meaning of it, knowing it from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and preserved by the practice of those who learn it directly from their teacher, the Sahaba and the ones after them. So it is an obligation. You follow the orders of Allah, you follow the orders of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, are there sects in Islam? There's only one group, the group that follow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everything is a splinter, is a wrong. There's only one right. So, at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how many sects there was? One. Following the orders of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all the companions were one. So there's only one sect. This is Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. There were no other sects. Remember, there was a joke somebody was arguing with somebody, Shia. He said, you follow Shia, they are the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Say, no, they're bad people, the Shia. I hear that this once the Sahaba were praying, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman and Ali, when they came out, one of the Shia stole their shoes except the shoes of Ali. He said, there was no Shia at that time. I said, that's my point, there was no Shia. There's only one group, they were all together. There was no Shia. So this is a splinter that happened later on, and same applies for any other sect. Anybody that says, I'm a Muslim, right away, pillars of Islam, believing in the books of Allah, believing in the Quran. Anybody doesn't believe in the Quran, or he believes that a word of Quran was omitted or added, there's chapters of Quran that are not included in it, it was hidden and so on, he's not a Muslim. So, Quran is as is, was preserved. It was the only revelation that was preserved by the time it was revealed. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has scribers, he assigned scribers to write it down. It was an ongoing revelation as his life. After his death, revelation stopped. Abu Bakr gathered all these scribers, they brought all those who memorized it by heart. They all agreed that this is the copy, there's true, final, no alteration in it, consensus. Nobody disagreed in it. And that's the book that we're reading till nowadays. He made it in one book. Umar took it after him. When Umar died, his daughter Hafsa, she was the wife of Rasulullah previously, she kept it with him. At the time of Uthman, when people started expanding the Islamic State, and they said, okay, now you have now different tribes pronouncing the words differently, now they're going to differ, make copies of it. So he brought the book, copied it, sent it to every part of the Islamic State with a reciter to tell them how to pronounce it and what's the meaning of it. So we know difference with it. So that's the only book preserved that we can say 100% is the book of Allah, the words of Allah. What we have in Torah, what we have in Injil, the Old Testament, New Testament, we don't know who wrote it. Yes, we trust Musa, we trust Isa, we trust their students, we trust the disciples, Al-Hawariyin, Allah has praised them, Al-Hawari. But who wrote it for them? We don't know. Are they in the original language? No. So if you don't have the original text, it's a translation from a translation by unknown author. You don't know which are the words of Allah, which are the words of humans. And you find all the copies of the Bible from different authors, whether it's the Hebrew Bible, the Greek, the English, and so on. There's a lot of difference between them, a lot of interpretations. They chose certain books to include it as a gospel. They chose certain books to ignore it as not being gospel, and they have no proof for any of that, which is which. So, Quran is the final word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the basics of all Islam. Anybody rejected, non-Muslim to start with. Then comes the next step. Okay, how would you understand Quran? So, through the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وأنزلنا إليك الذكر لتبين لهم ما نزل إليهم من ربهم وما أرسلنا من قبلك إلا رجالا نوحي إليهم فاسألوا أهل الذكر إن كنتم لا تعلمون بالبينات والزبر ونزلنا إليك الذكر لتبين للناس ما أنزل إليهم من ربهم. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling His messenger that what we reveal to you is a dhikr, a reminder to explain what was revealed to them from the Lord. So the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explains the revelation in the Quran. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن رَّسُولٍ إِلَّا لِيُطَاعَ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. have sent messengers only to be obeyed by the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In huwa illa wahyun yuha. Every word of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is an inspiration, whether they're actual Quran or actual hadith. The Sahaba asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, should we write everything that you say and do? They were not sure, because sometimes he would be talking like a human being. He said, yes, write everything, because it's all coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if a human or worldly matter that he has an opinion on that was wrong, Jibreel will come and correct him. So whatever we have in a hadith, it is 100% correct. And anybody that disagree with following Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then he's disagreeing with Allah. من يطع الرسول فقد أطاع الله ومن تولى فما أرسلناك عليهم وكيلا. So whoever obeys Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is obeying Allah. Whoever disagree, we haven't sent you as an enforcer on them. So everybody chooses their way, but the way is to obey Allah and obey His Messenger. So obeying the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the only acceptable way of understanding Quran. You cannot separate. You cannot say, I'm going to just look up Quran, ignore the Sunnah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, there's a hadith sahih narrated by Ibn Majah, Imam Ahmad, عن المقدام بن معد كرب أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال يوشك أن يقعد الرجل على أريكته يحدث بحديث من حديثه فيقول بيننا وبينكم كتاب الله فما وجدناه فيه من حلال استحللناه وما وجدناه فيه من حرام حرمناه ألا وإنما حرم رسول الله هو ما حرم الله. So this hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us, there will be soon you're going to have somebody leaning on his couch telling you that they're in luxury, they're feeling no stress, and somebody will mention a hadith of mine, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, between you and us is the book of Allah. Where we find it being halal, we do it. We find it's haram, we stay from it. They say, what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said is haram is what Allah said is haram. Because لا ينطق عن الهوى. If you believe in Quran, the Quran tells you Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam doesn't utter any words out of his own desires. It's all an inspiration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what they call Qur'aniyin, that we only believe in the Quran, unfortunately they're still alive. I remember 3 or 4 months ago I was arguing with somebody who was born in my country, and he was arguing against the hadith. He wanted only to follow Quran. Why they want to do that? Well, because now they can relax and do whatever they want. The same what the nations before us done. They altered the gospel, the revelation, the Bible, and then they interpret whatever they have the way they want. نؤمن ببعض ونكفر ببعض. So we take that interpretation, we reject that interpretation. That part I take, that part I don't take, and then becomes religion is a hobby. It doesn't become any obligation to it. So following the details as was revealed in the Quran, following details as was revealed in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a must. فلا وربك لا يؤمنون حتى يحكموك فيما شجر بينهم ثم لا يجدوا في أنفسهم حرجا مما قضيت ويسلموا تسليما. Allah is swearing that they will not be believers until they make Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a judge between them and they accept what he judged. So whoever rejects the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has rejected the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم. The orders to obey Allah, obey the Messenger, and those of in charge of the matter. In charge of the matter are 2 kinds. In worldly matters, leaders, kings, presidents, sultans, whatever it is. But in religious matters, the ulama. وإذا جاءهم أمر من الأمن أو الخوف أذاعوا به ولو ردوه إلى الرسول وأولي الأمر منهم لعلمه الذين يستنبطونه منهم ولولا فضل الله عليكم ورحمته لاتبعتم الشيطان إلا قليلا. Talking about some groups of people when they have a matter that relates to peace or war, they start spreading rumors and discuss it among them. They should have referred back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and with the people of knowledge with them. Otherwise, they follow the path of shaitan and will be led astray. So, when you're following the orders of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, during his life, directly you go to him. After his life, you refer to his sunnah. His sunnah being preserved by the Sahaba first. They start collecting it. We have the likes of Abu Huraira and Ibn Umar and Ibn Abbas and Ibn Amr ibn al-As and so on. They started going among the Sahaba and collecting the hadith. They start narrating it, and the narrators who collected it, they differentiate between when Abu Huraira or Ibn Umar Abbas say, سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لي حدثني أخبرني أخبرني, where I directly hear from him, or say قال رسول الله, he said, he did. So when he's referring to another person, it means another Sahabi taught him that. When he's saying I hear it directly, he was involved. And this is why I explain why Abu Huraira was a later on believers in Islam and the message, had more narration than those who earlier were like Abu Bakr and Umar, because he had more free time in his hand. So he went around, collected it. He had the blessing and the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he wouldn't forget. So everything he heard, he memorized. But you have like Abu Bakr and Umar, they're busy running the state. They had a state to run. They have matters of peace, matters of war, treaties, and so on, run armies. So they would not every time sit in the masjid and collect and spread that knowledge. When times come for it, yes, they have narrated, have important narrations. But among narrations that related by Abu Huraira and the rest of the younger Sahaba was more vast because they dedicated their life to it. And then their students carried on that message. So you have the Sahaba, some of them Medina, some in Mecca, some going to Basra and then Kufa, and then some of them spread to other parts, to Sham and Masr and so on, where they started teaching people. You have like Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, he left Medina, he went to Sham, nowadays Damascus, and he dedicated his life teaching the children there how to learn Quran, how to pronounce it, what it means. He dedicated his life to it. And you have the rest of the Sahaba, they have experience in the masjid, they give them halqa, and they start spreading this hadith. So, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah say the sources to know your religion in any matter related to Aqidah, Ibadah, Mu'amala, any of these matters, whether it's creed, matters of legislation, or matters of daily affairs, dealing with other people, dealing with rulers, dealing with foes and friends, and so on. It all comes to three sources: Quran, Sunnah, wa Ijma' al-Ummah. So, and when Imam al-Shafi'i was one of the most people vocal in spreading it, one of the Khawarij came to him. He says, you see in Quran and Sunnah, we find in the Quran telling us we have to obey what's in Quran, we have to obey Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tell me, what is Ijma' al-Ummah? Where do you come from this? If you say something Allah hasn't said, you're kafir. You have either declare yourself kafir, repent to Allah, or you become a kafir. So Imam Shafi'i say it's like a common given. How are we going to prove it? So he dedicated a few days, some say 3 days. You only go to prayer, come back, just repeat the Quran until you find the ayah. وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. That whoever quarrels with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam after the guidance was clear to him, and follow other than the path of the believers, will let him follow what he follow, and he will go to hellfire. So he said, if following the path of the believers was not a must, Allah will not have punished them in hellfire. That means who reject to follow the path of the believers will go to hellfire. Who are the believers at the time of the revelation? It was the Sahaba. So anybody that rejects the consensus of the Sahaba will become a Shaykh al-Rasul وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, following other than the path of the believers. And then the other ulama, they added the ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, فَإِنْ آمَنُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا آمَنْتُمْ بِهِ فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا وإن تولوا فإنما هم في شقاق فسيكفيكهم الله وهو السميع العليم. If they, all people, believe in what you believe in, the Sahaba, they are the ones who are addressed in this revelation, they are guided. فإن آمنوا مثل ما آمنتم به فقد اهتدوا وإن تولوا فسيكفيكهم الله. If they turn away, then Allah will be enough to protect you from them. وهو السميع العليم, all hearing, all knowledgeable. So following the path of the believers is a must. So following the sunnah of the Sahaba, it is a Quran. And we have it in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We have the famous hadith of Al-Irbad ibn Sariyah. وعظنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يوما موعظة بليغة ذرفت منها العيون ودمعت منها وجلت منها القلوب وذرفت منها العيون فقلنا يا رسول الله كأنها وصية مودع فأوصنا. Al-Irbad, he was saying that once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave him a very impressive speech. Their hearts trembled, the eyes start crying. He said, as if you're saying goodbye. Tell us something important. What's your advice to us? He told them, من يعش منكم عليكم السمع والطاعة وإن أمر عليكم عبد حبشي. He said you should listen and obey even if they were forced on you a leader who was a slave coming from Abyssinia. فإنه من يعش منكم فسيرى اختلافا كثيرا. Who live long among you, you will see a lot of disagreement. فعليكم بسنتي وسنة الخلفاء الراشدين المهديين من بعدي عضوا عليها بالنواجذ. You follow my sunnah, you follow the sunnah of the rightly guided successors. You hold tight to it, you bite with it with your back teeth. So that was the order of Rasulullah. You follow his sunnah and the sunnah of Khulafa al-Rashidin. And the Sahaba were the best of people who carried it. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. We ordered any matter that we're not sure about, is not clear about it, we ask the people of dhikr, of knowledge. So the people of dhikr, at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, were the knowledgeable Sahaba. The people after them, their students, tabi'een, after them, tabi'een, after them, the students who learned from them. We have the likes of Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, Imam Thawri, Sufyan ibn Uyayna, and so on. There's a lot of imam that were considered imam leaders. The students of the four imam were more active in preserving their teachings. Abu Hanifa never wrote a book, but his students were famous in spreading his way of doing it. Imam Malik, he had a book, Kitab al-Muwatta. So he gathered, he was living in Medina, a lot of the sons of the Sahaba and their students were still alive. So he gathered that one book, Al-Muwatta, and in it, every hadith that's authentic to his time, he gathered it. But that's the only book that he wrote. His students carried his school of thought over on, first in Medina, and nowadays you find it in North Africa, very prevalent. And then you have Imam Abu Hanifa, he was in Iraq, and in his area was limited amount of Sahaba, so the hadith that he gathered, he took it, and the matters he didn't have hadith or Quran, he used a lot of ra'i, deduction, and he made the qiyas and ra'i, and a lot of his ways, and he was very smart, very intelligent, and whenever he gives an opinion, he said, this is my ijtihad. If you have a hadith that contradicts my ijtihad, you follow the hadith. This is the best of ability I have, because as a legislator, as a judge, when there is a matter, you have to give a ruling. It's not enough to say, well, I don't know. Yes, you don't know, but you need to know, is this permissible or not permissible? So they need to know which part of the ruling it is. At the end, there are certain things they plead 100%. This is halal, this is haram, mustahab, makruh, mubah. They have, and sometimes this is my ijtihad. أرى ذلك أحب كذا وأكره كذا. You say, I love people do this, I hate for them to do that. Why? Because there isn't a solid evidence with it, but they're trying to follow the evidence as much as possible. Imam Shafi'i has the advantage of now he's a little bit younger than them. He started collecting more hadith. There were more people busy in collecting the hadith. And he put the foundation of ilm usul al-fiqh in his book al-Risala. And in it he put how you should interpret the Quran and the hadith and how you can combine texts that seemingly would be contradictory and so on. And then Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he was younger than the other ulama. He gathered all that, and he gathered his book, Musnad Imam Ahmad, over 100,000 hadith that he relied on it and made his book. And then their students start spreading it more and more. So, Aqidah Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, اتباع القرآن, اتباع سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, ما صح منها. So it has to be authentic. It's not enough to say there is a narration. It has to be authentic. And the authentic narration, whether it is revealed, narrated by one man or 100, is the same. As long as the narrators, all of them are trustworthy. And whether it is Sahih or Hasan, both of them are accepted. There are different levels of acceptance. Sahih, when all of them are 100% trustworthy, the ulama, the level next to them, they're good people, they memorize, but sometimes they make mistakes in their memory, but they have another person that have a narration similar to it. The wording might be a little bit different, but support that meaning, that becomes a Hasan. So it could be Hasan li nafsi or Hasan li ghayri. And these are the narrations that are accepted, whether it's matter for Aqidah or matter for Ibadah. There's no difference in that. And the ijma'. So once the Muslims have a consensus about something, then لا تجتمع أمتي على ضلالة. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has predicted this ummah that all of them have a consensus of something that is wrong. The early generations, easy to have consensus. The later generation becomes harder and harder. But still, now we might not have consensus, but we have majority. That's not considered the same level of ijma', jumhur, but it has a weight into it. When you don't have a strong evidence from Quran and Sunnah, then yes, especially in new matters that wasn't at the time of the Sahaba or the known ulama, that come later on. We're talking about organ transplant, about people praying in the moon or Mars, and other matters that were not at that time. That now we're looking at how the majority of ulama are addressing these issues. Give an example like smoking. When smoking like 100 years ago in our countries, most ulama say it's makruh. It doesn't smell good and you're wasting your money. Nowadays, the majority say it's haram because you know it's harmful. Before they didn't know it's harmful. Now you know it's harmful. It's cutting your life short, making you sick. It causes cancer, heart attacks, and strokes, and all kind of problems. So now it's proven to be harmful. The ulama now, the majority of them tell you it is haram. So you read an older book that's written 70 or 80 years ago, they tell you makruh. Now they tell you it is haram. And the same would apply to any matters. We have general rules. Whenever we have something new, you apply these general rules until you reach a conclusion. So, saying that, are there differences? There are always differences. وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبُّكَ. That having differences is human nature. They always will have differences, except those who Allah have mercy on. However, that should not be the norm. The norm is, especially matters of deen, we all stick as one group. ولا تكونوا كالذين تفرقوا واختلفوا من بعد ما جاءهم البينات وأولئك لهم عذاب عظيم. That we should not differ and be sects and groups like nations before us after revelations and clear signs came to them. These will have severe punishment. إن الذين فرقوا دينهم وكانوا شيعا لست منهم في شيء. Those who separate their religion into groups and sects, you have nothing to do with them. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam destroyed all of them because there's only one group, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Anybody that thinks he's better than Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah is not following the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. من رغب عن سنتي فليس مني. whoever turn away from my sunnah, he's not part of me. He's not going to get the shafa'ah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the intercession in the day of judgment. He's not going to be blessed to drink from the pool of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's not going to be considered ummati, ummati. These are my people. Allah saved them. So you have to follow it. Respecting the Muslim groups with their differences is min Aqidah al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. That there is ikhtilaf that will always happen. Just because somebody disagrees with you, you don't consider him automatically kafir, mubtadi', fasiq, kharij min al-ummah. You don't consider him out of this ummah. Because there is ijtihad and there is difference in ijtihad, even if he's wrong. But as long as his intention is good, he's trying to aim for good, and he's not somebody who's rejecting truth. It just, he didn't even, either didn't get it, or he's making a wrong conclusion. But he's not intentionally trying to separate from Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's still considered with the Jama'ah. Even we say this opinion is wrong. A person can say a word of kufr or do an act of kufr, doesn't automatically make him a kafir. And we know from the tradition of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Ibn Mas'ud went to Bilad al-Sham, he's seen people there, people of the book and so on, for the monks, for the priests, they make prostration to them. If somebody's seen the Pope with the cardinals and so on, they lay flat on the ground, friends, not even sujood. They flat on the face in front of him. Yeah. So when he saw that, he said, oh, well, we should respect our Prophet better than this. So when he came back to Medina, saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made sujood for him. He said, no human being should make sujood, prostration, except to Allah. If there's a human being that needs to make prostration to Allah, why not order the woman to do it for what? But no human being should make prostration to another human being. So he had dedicated an act of worship that's only for Allah, he dedicated to another human being. This is kufr. But he didn't intend it, he didn't know. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't tell him, oh, you committed kufr, you have declared Islam again, otherwise you're going to be killed murtad. No, just like he never done it again. So, the act was wrong, he didn't do it again. That's why. So that can apply to a lot of ignorant people. We see it in Allah Muslim country, they go and visit the graves of the dead and pious people, they make offering to them, they think their sins, their wali, there's something special about it. This is shirk, this is kufr. But you cannot say about them kafir and mushrik, because a lot of them are ignorant. They have teachers, shaykh and so on, grandparents tell them this is the way to do it. They think, oh, they're respecting Allah, His Messenger, and His Sunnah by respecting the people do it. This is kufr. But you don't declare them kafir right away. The same thing coming with any people who are making bid'ah, those who celebrate the birthday of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where none of the Sahaba has done it. This is bid'ah. But you're not going to go every time somebody, oh, you're mubtada', you're out of the religion. Because a lot of people are thinking we're doing it out of respect to Rasulullah. So because we love him, we want to follow his sunnah, and the mashayikh are telling us it's okay. So that's where the duty of Ahlul Ilm, they have to spread it in a way that the message reach them, that will accept it. You cannot stand and remember, oh, you kafir, you mushrik, you mubtada', and start throwing it away. They say you're Wahhabi and they kick you out. So it doesn't work. The message should be delivered in a way that people can comprehend it and accept it. There's no dilution of it, there's no compromise, you don't lie, there's no tuqiyah in Islam. The only time tuqiyah is acceptable when you're threatened with your life and you're forced into declaring words against the religion. That's the only time tuqiyah is allowed.
What is tuqiyah?
Tuqiyah is somebody to say, to protect himself from harm by saying something he doesn't believe in. إِلَّا أَن تَتَّقُوا مِنْهُمْ تُقَى. So the ayah in the Quran, that those who commit kufr after the belief, except they're forced to it, the other ayah, إِلَّا أَن تَتَّقُوا مِنْهُمْ تُقَى, that you only protect yourself. It shouldn't be a way of living. Like you see some sects, for Rafida al-Ithna Ashariya, for them, مَنْ لَا تُقْيَةَ لَهْ لَا دِينَ لَهْ. For them it's a rule. If you don't lie right and left about your beliefs, you have no religion. Well, this is the opposite of religion. said it should be to the narrowest, like Ammar ibn Yasir, when his father Yasir, his mother Sumayya, were killed in front of him. He was a youth, he was tortured to say bad words about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he said it when he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "What do you feel in your heart?" He said, "I'm full of iman." He said, "If they turn again and they force you again, say it again." And Allah revealed this ayah, then you're forced here. This is the tuqya that's Allah. But not every time you want to please certain people. No, that's not what we did. We're all good, we're all brothers, we have no agreement, and so on. And you, inside your heart, you know this is false. So there's no lying in da'wah. So that should be clear. Islam is not a sect, it's not a cult, it's not a secretive teaching that are taught in basement to specific groups of people, and people pledge silence, they will never spread it. If anybody says that, right away they're wrong. Islam is clear, day as night. All the teaching of Islam, there's no hiding of it. Application can change from time to time. At a time when slavery was common, in the times of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Islam came to regulate it and minimize it. So made it where you cannot enslave a free person. A woman, if she has a son from her master, the minute he dies, he's free, cannot be enslaved herself. Anytime there's certain mistakes you make, the compensate for it to free a slave, and so we'll make it one of the highest charity you can do is freeing slaves and so on. Once slavery is prohibited by the humans, nobody should claim again, I'm going to start it, because Islam wanted to get rid of it and legislated and narrowed it down further and further and further. We cannot have a crazy group like ISIS going in Iraq and Syria, declaring themselves good kafir and kidnapping their women and children and calling them slaves. This has nothing to do with Islam. These are people who want to do this, and they take in the guise of Islam. So the application of the religion, the ulama decide when the frame of the application change. So it's not up to groups, to people, somebody assign himself Amir al-Mu'mineen or Amir or Sultan or whatever, and start changing rules right and left. The ulama, the guided one, without the influence of personal gain or trying to please another authority. She's doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the disagreeing is not the norm. The norm is agreeing and respecting disagreement to a level. Aqidah, all Muslims are on the same Aqidah. There should be no disagreement about the hereafter, about the punishment of the grave, about things that will happen in the future. Are they going to be Masih al-Dajjal? Are going to come Ya'juj and Ma'juj? And all these. These are all either on Quran, authentic narration from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Aqidah matters. All the Muslims on it the same. The only matters where ijtihad is acceptable, matters of fiqh, where people have different reasons. Either they didn't get the text, they got the text in a way it wasn't authentic for them, or they have interpretation of the text in a way different from another person. So that's this part of ijtihad masmur. That's why you find there's no problem. If you follow Maliki way and you have Imam Hanafi in front of you who's praying, his hand is on his belly button. You have another Hanafi, Hanbali or Shafi'i, his hands are up, or Maliki, his hands are down, or whatever. The salah is acceptable. Because each one of them trying to follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the best of their ability. So one is not considered outside Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah unless is intentionally trying to find other sources. So they do work onto dreams. You have some people, I dreamt that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to me, or my teacher, or our Shaykh of Tariqah, he was asleep or halfway between sleep and awake, and he saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave him knowledge that nobody ever got, and he told him, say this dhikr and do this way, and so on. So they're lying, because Allah has said in His book, الْيَوْمَ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي. Today, this is the Hajj al-Akbar, Rasulullah was there, your religion is perfect. My bounty on you is completed. So nobody can claim that there's any more that they can add to the religion. Adding to the religion is the same as taking away from it. Once you reach the peak, when you add, it's going to drop. There's nothing. This is the top. What you have from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what his companions, this is the best. Nothing better than it. So somebody intentionally trying to find another way of legislation, or somebody intentionally refusing following the clear text and trying to use logic against a clear text, then this somebody not found by the Sunnah wal Jama'ah. العقل الصحيح لا يعارض النص الصريح. A sound mind will never contradict a perfect, authentic narration. There are certain things we have to accept as unseen. We don't know what happened hereafter. We accept الإيمان بالغيب. Yes, after we death, there are angels that will take our souls. People will in the grave will be either be enjoying it or they're going to be punished, and there will be a day of judgment and so on. All of that's something we don't see, but we believe in. It was revealed to us. There's certain things that you're going to make logic to it. We believe it's a miracle. Rasulullah ﷺ one night to go from Mecca to Jerusalem. They had no means of transportation, can do that at that time. Then the same night going from Jerusalem to the seventh heaven. There's no way, till nowadays or advanced, we don't have that technology. We believe it's a miracle. Allah can do that. The same way Allah protected Ibrahim when he was being burned. قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Anybody thrown into fire, they know they get burned. Allah protected Ibrahim. He said, "Oh fire, be cool and peace for Ibrahim." And was. Why? Because Allah can do anything. Allah keeps the normal all the time, but He creates certain miracles in certain times for the people that He blesses. And that reminds me, once a brother was asking about whether the murderers, their bodies are preserved or not. This is only for the prophets. The murderers, the shuhada, some Allah will give them a karama, an extraordinary way the body is preserved, but that if their body is not preserved doesn't mean they're not martyrs. So somebody will go on and find the shuhada Uhud, their graves. If somebody dug in the grave and found there's no bones left anymore, they're not shuhada, they're shuhada. Whether you find their bones or not, and the same applies for any generation. So Allah, the one creates norms, He can remove these norms. The same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created Isa. إِنَّ مَثَلَ عِيسَى عِنْدَ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلِ آدَمَ خَلَقَهُ مِنْ تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ قَالَ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونُ. The example of Isa is the example of Adam. Adam was created from dust, no father, no mother. He said be, and it was. Isa, even simpler, he has a mother at least. He said be, and it was. That's all what it takes. It doesn't mean that Adam is the son of God. It doesn't mean that Isa is the son of God. There was no son of God before Isa, and there's no son of God at the time of Isa or after Isa. So those who claim Father and Son and Holy Spirit say, where are they? When before Adam was created, was there Isa? God was three pieces, and before Jibreel was created, the Holy Spirit was there also. There's always one God. The rest of them are creatures. The best of angels is the Holy Spirit, Jibreel, and the best of the humans at his time was Isa, created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, one creator, the rest are creatures. We have to accept that our logic is limited. When it comes to matters about the knowledge of Allah, we only know of it what He revealed to us. How He begins His description, His majesty. So we only know about it what He describes to Himself. Decree and fate, we submit to Allah. Everything happens with the knowledge of Allah. He can foretell everything and have control of everything. What He wants happen, what He doesn't want doesn't happen, and still we're responsible for our action. What is the balance? How much choice we have? How much is compulsion we have is up to Allah. It's one of the secrets. You reject it, you're rejecting the presence of God. You try to make logic of it, you're going to get a conclusion that there is no God or God is not there. When you look at values that you cannot explain, you see earthquakes happening to innocent people. You see a disaster, you have a tyrant getting away, killing millions of people, and so on, and then you say, well, if there's a God, He wouldn't have allowed it. No, you believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in control of everything. He doesn't have to explain to us what is happening. There's a day of judgment where people will be judged for their actions. And we know from Surah Al-Kahf, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed us the story of Musa and the Rajul al-Salih al-Khadir, how he went on a journey, 3 incidents happened to them that defy logic, defy Sharia even. So he goes in a boat, people are helping him to cross the water, and he makes a hole in the boat. This is haram in Sharia, harming another human being for no reason, harming him. And then explain to them, well, the king is looking for good boats, we'll confiscate it. This one has a hole. They will survive, they're fishermen. They're not going far. They can just get the water out, seal it, whatever. They survive. But if he takes their boats, they have no means of making a living. They will die. So a lesser harm was done for them to protect them from a bigger harm. But how would somebody know that if he didn't get revelation from Allah? So without having that knowledge, you would say this is unfair for a good person like Al-Khadir to hurt good people, these fishermen, and damage the boats. Now you know, say, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then the second instance, see a boy running around, Khadir go and kill him. Now that totally defies logic. He's an innocent boy. He hasn't done anything. Why kill him? And then later on he explained to him, well, this is going to grow up to be a big criminal. He's going to bring the grief to everybody and will hurt everybody, including his parents. So Allah wanted him to go away, and He will replace him with another child that's better than him. Can anybody do that? No, it's haram. It's prohibited to hurt an innocent one, thinking what they do in the future. You don't know. It's like what happened now in Gaza. A lot of Israelis say, oh, if they're not terrorists, they're some terrorists, they're going to grow up to be terrorists. So let's kill them all. How would you know that? We know from time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we didn't curse the people of Mecca. A lot of the biggest tyrants, their kids were the best Muslims. Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl was one of the leaders of Muslims in the battle of Yarmouk against the Romans. His father was Abu Jahl, the one that killed a lot of Muslims and tortured them, and he was an enemy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So لا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى. Everybody responds for all the sins of the father don't carry it to the children. And then we have the third incident when he went into the village, the wall was crumbling. Mean people asked him for some water and food, they wouldn't give it to him, and still he fixed the wall for them, and he says, okay, that's it. Why would you do that? No more, because their condition was, you go with me, don't ask me why. Say, now it's 3 times, stop, he explained the thing, and then he killed them. This wall belongs to orphans. Their father was a good person, he hid some treasure for them underneath. The wall's crumbling. If it's exposed, the treasure too young to protect it, the mean people of the village will take it away from them. But now I fixed it, it will survive until they grow old, when they can find the treasure, make use of it. This is what the father was doing. So again, an action that makes no sense. You go bad people and you're doing something good to them and they mean to you, why would you? So the point is, qadar, you cannot use logic with it. There's always a reason, Allah knows it. And what's the balance between how much you have a choice, how much is decreed from Allah? Only Allah knows. You know, nothing happens against the will of Allah without His knowledge, without His permission. There are certain things He permits and likes, and certain things He permits and dislikes. But all of it under His control. It cannot happen against Him. So that's all what you need about qadar. Anybody that try to go beyond that, they will become a kafir. Those who they will reach a point either that Allah has created things He doesn't know what will happen and let people do, and then they will judge them what they're doing, or that Allah is unfair. They have to accept our mind is limited. We cannot understand that point other than Allah controls everything. We're responsible for our actions. So both of them happening at the same time. The exact balance, only Allah knows. It's like the Sahaba when they asked Rasulullah what we do, what we supplicate, for something that being foretold by Allah, He knows about it, already written, or not yet. You say, Allah knows about it, already written. Say then, why should we bother? You see, you do what you're responsible to do, because everybody will be facilitated for what is meant for him. So people who are meant to go to Jannah will do the action, people of Jannah will end up in Jannah. Allah did not write for that person to go to hellfire out of unfairness, because Allah knows who that person is. And we know that guidance is important, but accepting the guidance is a blessing for Allah, knowing who's worthy of it. Information is not enough for a person to accept the guidance. And we have the example of Shaitan. He has knowledge more than any of us about Allah, about unseen things, about angels, about heaven, about creation. But all of that wasn't enough for him to believe. His main sin was arrogance. He defied the laws of Allah. He felt he's better than prostrating to an inferior creature like a human being, and he rejected the laws of Allah. وَمَا تُغْنِي الْآيَاتُ وَالنُّذُرُ عَنْ قَوْمٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Signs and all these precautions is not enough for people who don't believe. وَلَوْ رُدُّوا لَعَادُوا لِمَا نُهُوا عَنْهُ إِنَّهُمْ لَكَاذِبُونَ. The judgment of the kuffar said, oh, we didn't know. If you send us back, we're going to do good. Allah said, if I send them again, they're going to do bad again. You have people see miracles in front of their eyes and defy that miracles. Musa, he saw, Allah gave him with the shaft, he split the sea. Fir'aun saw it. He knows this is a miracle. You know that Musa, Allah gave him, so it's not the first miracle that they have seen from him. And still defy, I'm going to cross with my army. It wasn't enough for him. The people of Saleh, they asked him for a specific miracle. We want a she-camel from this stone. Will give us enough milk for the whole tribe. He said, you believe if I do that? Yes. So he makes dua to Allah, give him in front of them, out of that stone, a she-camel that will give him milk to all of them. So the condition, one day she drinks water, none of you drink water, you get her milk. Second day, you all can drink water, she will not give you milk, she'll be out. So split the days. She drinks one day, you drink one day, you get milk from her one day, you don't get another day. They conspired and killed it. So signs are not enough. There is something inside the heart that needs to be ready. And this is what Allah describes Surah An-Nur. مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح في زجاجة الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري. That the vessel should be there. Then the oil and the light comes to it. This is the believer. He is a vessel of goodness. Then comes the knowledge, then comes the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you accept that knowledge and practice it and get guided. And this is what the faith is about. Purifying yourself. طِبْتُمْ فَادْخُلُوهَا خَالِدِينَ. Jannah is أرض طيبة, دار السلام, the place of peace. So nobody will come into it with filth and sins. We don't go to Jannah with our sins. Allah forgive it for us. So when people get their books in the right hand, when the books are written, what are they going to find in it? The believer is going to find only good things. And they will be proud of it. Here's my book. Read it. إني ظننت أني ملاق حسابي فهو في عيشة راضية في جنة عالية قطوفها دانية كلوا واشربوا هنيئا بما أسلفتم في الأيام الخالية. So he has done good, he's believed, he's done a lot of good stuff of belief and actions of faith and so on. That on the day of judgment, Allah will wipe all his bad deeds. Sins, impurity will not be with the person going to Jannah. They will be purified. Of those whose sins outweigh their good deeds, beyond the level of redemption, beyond they can be forgiven, intercession, and so on, they'll be purified in fire. They go, they're believers, but the sinners, grave sins that are not forgiven, they'll be purified in hellfire, then they'll be resurrected in the river of Kawthar, they will go to Jannah. But they will be purified. So only the pure will go to Jannah. And this is trying to purify ourselves. This is what we get closer to Allah. وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. that at the end you try to come with a clean heart for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You do your best that you have no hatred for Muslims, even for those who disagree with you. When I see somebody doing something wrong, rather than cursing them, ask Allah to guide them. I've seen somebody give us a clip about some Shia in Damascus going and beating themselves and then going to the grave of Muawiyah, spitting on it, throwing shoes and discrediting the grave and so on. Being driven by some evil leaders of them to ignite this hatred. God ask Allah guide them. These are people thinking they're doing it, they get closer to you. Guide them, show them the way. And I've known a lot of people who grew up as Shia, and once they found the truth, it doesn't make any sense that we hate the Sahaba, we hate those who follow the Sunnah of Rasulullah. These teachers, what they're teaching us, has no basis to it. It defies logic, it defies any divine revelation and so on. So we want guidance for everybody, even for those who are non-Muslims. We know a lot of our friends in this community grew up being non-Muslims. And Allah bless them with guidance and being good people. So Aqidah al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they love Allah, they love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they love the Sahaba, they love and respect the ulama, they love the Muslims, they love mankind, and they wish the best for mankind. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوا. That all corruption you see on earth happening because of the corruption of mankind, what they're doing. So even when you see earthquakes, you see hurricanes, you see all kinds of disasters, global warming, and all this happening, because of us not following the words of Allah, not being kind to one another. If people are following truly the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, something is harmful. You know, this emission of your factory is raising the degree and it's going to cause some people to drown. It's going to cause some people to die, animals to die, and so on. Because it's haram for you to do it. Why? So instead of 10 billion, have 100 billion? I mean, most of people have so much greed that they're willing to harm everything in their way just to get the greed. You see the bankers want to get more and more money, even they collapse the whole economy, people go bankrupt, people cannot find food, they will fight for everything, they don't care. If they know if you start having disasters, temperature rising, ocean rising, people drowning, we're rich, we can find a way, we can save, they don't care. So this corruption, this mentality with only deen, that's the mentality that's against Islam. Islam is about getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, humbling yourself, thinking of yourself not better than anybody else. You're trying to better yourself. Your competition is with yourself. Yourself can be your best supporter or best enemy, worst enemy. So you get the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the details of the Sharia are important to lead you through it, but at the end, you need to keep your heart clean. This being extremist, fanatic, where you have to force your idea against others, force them to in their mouth, they have to accept it. This is not Islam. لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي. There's no compulsion in religion, right and wrong, it's clear. فمن يؤمن بالله فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها. So for those who reject false idols and believe only in Allah, they hold to the title of Allah. So first, rejecting everything that is wrong, anything that leads you away from Allah, you reject it. Then you have faith in Allah, you accept Allah. It's not enough you say, I'm a Muslim, I pray, I pay my zakah, I'm fasting, I've done my hajj, and then I judge everybody around me and start branding them, putting labels on them, and then do something offensive just because they're not like me. They have something different from me, something physical, status, belief, whatever it is, that I'm better than anybody. We're all created from two human beings, Adam and his wife. We all are the same. Nobody is better than anybody except with the actions of faith that only Allah knows. I cannot judge people outside. You can judge an action, but you cannot judge the person. A person you might see one time look to you that he's not doing something good. He might have done tons of good things that you don't know about. And the same thing, you're seeing another person that apparently is a very good person. You don't know what's in heart, what harm he has done to others. Inshallah, that's very expansive. And everybody has any specific question.
So the first question, to go back to the point you made about Abu Hurairah, about how he spent little time with the Sahaba, but because he would spend a lot of his time seeking knowledge with the Sahaba and Prophet, he memorized so many hadith, he had a lot of knowledge. Whereas Abu Bakr and Umar and the Sahaba that were considered the highest level, they weren't spending all their time necessarily seeking knowledge, they were doing other things too. So what's the correct tariq for us to take? Should we take the path of Abu Hurairah, just seek knowledge, or should we try to be more well-rounded like other Sahaba?
So, كل ميسر لما خلق له. Allah make it easy for everybody what it's meant for. It depends on your status. So, if you are a leader, you're leading a nation, you're not going to be spending as much time as somebody who's more like a student of knowledge. There is fard ayn and fard kifaya. Fard al-ayn obligation every Muslim to know the minimum basics of the faith, of the practice, and so on. And fard kifaya is more. It's like for somebody when you're working, you can work 30 hours a week, make enough to pay your bills, or you might work 60 or 80, gain more money and become wealthy. This is a wealth of good deeds, this religion. So whether it's Quran, whether it's Hadith, whether it's knowledge, and so on, as much as you can grab from it, grab it. This is mustahab, something encouraged. But as long as it doesn't contradict your other duties, you have family that you need to take care of, you have a body you need to take care of, and so on. إن لربك عليك حقا وإن لنفسك عليك حقا وإن لزوجك عليك حقا فأعطي كل ذي حق حقا. So you have to be right in everything. And I know I've met one brother maybe 20, 30 years ago, came this area. He was a doctor memorizing Quran. So he told me when he was in medical school, he finished memorizing Quran riwayat Hafs an Asim. So he went to Shaykh Dimashq, Bilad Sham, Shaykh Abu Zakariya. And once he got the ijazah from him, he said, now I want to learn the other qira'at. He said, no. He said, there are people who specialize in that. We need good doctors that are good Muslims, to take care of these Muslims and be a good example for other doctors. This is your way. This is your way. So he still memorized Quran, still taught it to his children and so on. But his job as being a doctor was important. Memorizing all the qira'at. There are people who specialize in it. So they're doing it. So whatever you're good at, try to excel in it for the sake of Allah. Not everybody has the ability to memorize Quran. Not everybody has the ability to know sahih from da'if, or to make the ijtihad and so on. So you do what you can. Some people are physical. They can physically go home, people move them. You have newcomers come to this Medina, they want to have a new fridge or a new washer moved, you help them and so on. Some people have connections. I can hook you up with someone, give you a car and so on. Some people just moral support, they're good socially, they do networking and introduce people and so on. Some people linguistically are good, they teach them a new language. So everybody try to do as much as good in your ability. Allah.
I have no question for that. With the Kahf, when Khidr, he fixes the wall and he says that وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. Is this a dalil, or could we say that when you're righteous, that your children will become righteous, or they will have benefit from your righteousness, and so barakah.
So the ulama say yes, children can benefit from the father being righteous, but it's not a guarantee. It's to give him a foot up in that path. It's not a guarantee, because we know, like Nuh, he's more righteous than this guy. His son, he will say, قال لا عاصم اليوم من أمر الله إلا من رحم. So sometimes you do your best, but it's more likely to happen. The way you look at it, everything in this life are opportunities that adding up. So if you are, let's say, good in study and you want to be an astronaut, and okay, to be an astronaut you need to learn physics and math and so on. You might do everything, and your father was an engineer in NASA before. That gives you a leg up. But if you're not still doing the other stuff, that's not going to be enough for you. So yes, you have better chance than somebody from the same college, the same degree, having your father has any connections. But if you are not good, that connection is not going to be good for you. So that's the same thing. Having a good, pious parent gives you a leg up, but that person should also do something before. Because the example before it, they were good people and their son was bad and the son was killed, so they were replaced with a better son. So the person himself still has some job to do, even with that opportunity.
When we were talking about Allah, you mentioned that we have to accept that our logic is limited, that we're not going to fully understand. Now, that specific statement that you made, there are certain groups within Islam, sects or whatever, and even dealing with Christians as well, they like to use this a lot. And it's like, no, our brain can't comprehend, right? So how do you respond to that? How do you balance that?
So you limit, we need to limit the amount of things that we cannot understand. So it's not going to be used every time to define, especially when you have proofs to the contrary. It's like when you talk to Christian talking about the Trinity. So explain to me, Father, Son, three, one dies, one stays. No, something actually you have to believe in it. So you go to the logic before it. Is it something that always been like this? Yes, was like this. Oh, I remember 2 years ago when we prayed Eid downtown, and we have one of the missionaries who knew Arabic. He's standing in front of the door and trying to give us pamphlets about Isa, and he's the way to Allah. Isa tariq Allah, and he said, Assalamu alaikum, alaikum assalam, how you doing, brother? I'm good. And then he started arguing. He said, your main point that Allah has ascribed a son to him, Isa, and Isa sacrificed himself to salvage all human beings, and if you believe in him, you'll be saved. He said, yes. He said, then why didn't the other prophets talk about it? Why didn't Ibrahim and Noah and Musa tell their people, oh, don't bother, Allah is a son, you believe in him, you don't have to bother to sacrifice a cow or fight or do anything, you just believe in him. See, it's not important. See, now you contradict yourself. You say this is the cornerstone if you believe, but it wasn't important that other prophets were. But now it's important that everybody, the only way they go to heaven is believing that there's a son sacrificed himself. So it defies it. So the only time there are things that we don't know, but you have to limit it. Even those who believe in evolution, they start everything with the Big Bang. What's before the Big Bang? We don't know. So the same thing for us, we start with Allah. What's before Allah? We don't know. We know about Allah only what reveals to us. The second thing, I was surprised with the Big Bang, when they talk about how a small amount of material exploded, became energy, enormous energy. Some of that energy stayed energy, and some turned into material. Matter, antimatter, and then you have dark material. And they don't know how that happened. They don't know why that energy, because there was no protons, no neutrons, no electrons, that waves of energy. And some of it turned into neutrons, protons, and electrons, and then became they became like gas, and this gas started to coalesce and became stars and so on. Some of them cooled off, became planets and so on. But they don't understand that. And they will never reach a point where they understand it. Every time they scrap a layer, there's another layer to know. They don't know what's the point that inorganic matter turn into organic matter. So they try to say, oh, you give a spark, you put some things that becomes amino acids. I mean, that's the best they can do. When they have sparks, some chemicals, nitrogen and other stuff, in the right environment, they have some amino acids. Oh, that's the building block of life. Well, you don't know that. And they might not never know that. So even with evolution, those who believe in science, there's certain things they don't, but they had the hope at some point the science will find it. 100 years, 1,000 years, but they believe in the science. But what's behind it? Things happen by chance, it will end by chance, and there's no meaning to this. You enjoy the life. Once you're done, you're back into the recycle of life, your materials will be recycled, you get something different. That's the difference. So for us, when we say we don't know it, but there is beginning, there is end, there's purpose, and there is results. Rather than, I don't know what's the beginning, I don't know what's the end, and there's no purpose of everything that's happening. So if somebody just keeps shooting heroin all his life, and at age 25 he overdoses and die, it's the same as somebody who's done good until age 90 and died. They've done what they like, and they end up they'll be dust. What's the point of life? There's no point. So in the belief, you're trying to limit it. Everybody, whatever system of faith, there is a point that you don't know. But the Islamic way is the best explanation. I'm looking at it. I did not want to follow Islam because I was born into it. I don't want to follow the way of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, following the Salaf al-Salih, just because I wanted to. I'll make sure there's no better way. I could not find any better way, any better explanation. I've sat with atheists, I've sat with Christians, I've sat with Jews, Buddhists, with different sects of Islam. Nobody can give me a better way, better explanation that this is the way that will lead me to a happy life now and in the hereafter. I'm happy when I'm happy. What's the worst can happen if my belief is wrong? There's no hereafter. I enjoyed good life, I've done things that I like, and I died happy. Something bad happens to me, alhamdulillah, Allah's in control, I'll be rewarded in the hereafter. If I'm mistaken with that, if nothing wrong happened to me. But on the other hand, their argument, well, what happens if you're wrong? And then when the kid come to you and they ask you, Man Rabbuk, Ma Dinuk, Man Nabiyyuk, or you say, and then boom, you start getting the bangs. So they gambling with something really serious. I have full faith that this universe is not done out of nothing. It cannot. There is no logical reason why a planet like Earth should exist. And if it existed, that life, intelligent life, should be in it. What happens if there's no human being on this Earth? Earth will still go on. What happens if whole Earth doesn't go? The solar system still goes on. How about if the whole solar system doesn't go? The universe is still going on. So there is no necessity for what we have to happen. So Allah has created it for a purpose, and we have to accept, we know from it what He has told us.
جزاك الله خيرا Shaykh Abu Zakariya.
Now you always have to question your faith, and you will never find a better explanation. Try wherever you look, your faith. Yes, there's certain things you have to accept. You cannot explain, but they are the most limited in this system of faith, and there's no better explanation to give you less uncertainties.
By the way, if you enjoyed the class today, the Sheikh teaches classes every Sunday.
Saturday.